Hi guys, welcome back to Talking Pictures with Kenny Martin. In this series we talk about the images that I've been photographing over my 40-year career as a professional portrait photographer and some of the stories behind them, some of the techniques. In this image today we're going to be looking at John Hurt, one of the greatest actors that has ever lived. And there's a brilliant story about how I met John Hurt. So I had a studio in a tiny village called Innerleithen. Population 2,500, 35 miles from Edinburgh, 60 miles from Glasgow, middle of nowhere in the Scottish borders. Anyway, back in the day, I used to photograph anything, and I used to do processing for local customers, copy prints. I did commercial work, I did weddings, I'd sold landscapes, I did absolutely anything to make some money before I changed into 100% portrait photographer. Now, one day this guy came in and he was looking at my landscapes and he said to me, "Do you have this one but in a bigger size?" And I says, "Well, I don't, but I said I can print it for you." So we took an order and I said to him, "What's your name?" And he said, "It's the Reverend Hurt." And I went, "Are you any relation?" Just in jest. And he said, "Who to?" And I goes, "John." And he goes, "Yes, he's my son." I went, "Are you kidding me? The actor John Hurt is your son?" Turned out he was the English minister in the local village. And I said to him, "Well, listen, I'd love to photograph John." So I says, the next time he's up, I says, "Could you ask him if he'll sit for me?" Anyway, I got a telephone call from him to say that John and his brother are coming up to visit. And he invited me up to photograph John. And that was the first time I photographed him. I photographed him a few times after that. But I went up to the house and I thought, right, how can I get something really nice and simple here without really, taking up his time? And, he was doing me a favour. So I got him, I went outside and I got him at the window, looking out the window. And I love the contrast between his really subtle khaki kind of colours, the surround of the window frame, but it's complemented beautifully by the warm tungsten light inside. So of course it's a daylight white balance, and by doing that we're getting an excess of warmth inside, and so there's a lovely contrast between this warm lamp and the colours of the pictures. I think that's what really makes the picture, actually, because it would have been a kind of a little bit drab and a little bit kind of almost kind of faint, if that was the case. But it was an absolute gem, John. It really was. And taking his time out to invite me up to photograph him, which was great, and it gave me a real wee boost to my portfolio when I was then looking for editorial work and all the rest of it. When you have these kind of guys in your portfolio, there's some sort of real credibility about that. There's a wee funny story as well, because I think it was the year after this, perhaps, I got a telephone call off of John to say, "Look, I'm coming back up, but I'm bringing the family with me. Could you photograph me and the family in the studio?" And I goes, "Aye, that'll be great." So we had John in. I wish I'd kept the negatives. I don't have them. I basically burnt all my negatives about, oh God, no, it was 20 years ago. I just got rid of them all, right? Didn't have room to keep them, to be honest. I was moving to a smaller house. But Johnny came in and I photographed the family, and they bought some nice family portraits and all the rest of it. And then 2 years later, I got a call off of John saying they're coming back up and could they get some updated family portraits. And they came in and it was a totally different wife and totally different children. It really totally confused me. He had obviously got divorced, and then he had shacked up with somebody else with her kids, and they stayed in a castle in Ireland, I think, at that point. But I was really phased for a wee while when he walked in the door, and I was expecting to see the same woman. This was in the first session, and it was an entirely different family. How did the other half live it? But John, absolute brilliant guy, one of the greatest actors that you will ever see. For you younger guys watching this, you don't know John Hurt's work, just go back and check stuff like The Elephant Man and Alien, and oh my God, he was the most astonishing astonishing actor. So anyway, listen, I've been Kenny Martin. This has been Talking Pictures. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Click the notification bell and you'll be told of the next video that's going to be coming out. And if you want to leave a wee comment about John Hurt or anything else, indeed, please do so. I've been Kenny Martin. It's been lovely to speak to you. We'll see you on the next one.